Hey guys, welcome to another exciting episode of Open Studio. I'm your host for today's show. My name is Danny Kambwa, and as always, we've got an amazing, exciting show for you today because I've got a big group of guests that's joining me in studio today. They're from the organization called Africa Unite. Okay, so they're here to speak to us a little bit more about what the organization does and what they do to help and assist within communities and how they can, or to the best of their ability. So there's a lot of them here today, a lot of names to remember, so I'm going to let them introduce themselves. So starting from here in front, guys. Firstly, welcome to the show.
Thank
you guys,
Thank you.
You look amazing.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so just for those that's watching at home, can you just introduce yourself? Tell us a bit more about yourself, yeah.
So I am Yanela Msongel, that's my name. I work for Africa Unite in a program called, I'm a coordinator for the youth.
Okay.
I am Dineo Matakala from Lesotho. I am currently attending the Africa Unite exchange program.
Okay.
I'm now Vili Sitadi from Zambia. I'm attending the Africa Unite exchange program, so I'm basically an intern there.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Kambwa. I am working at Africa Unite as the school club coordinator.
Wow, and it sounds like you guys are all from different, you're not all from one area. Like one thing from, you're from Zambia, Lesotho,
South Africa,
Eastern Cape,
KZN.
and KZN, and Congo. Yeah, so can you guys tell us a little bit more? Can you tell me the background of Africa Unite, how it came about?
So my colleague will cover this, but basically we started as a conversation between young people in a location in New Crossroads, where young people saw certain social ills that they felt that they needed to be addressed. And because of that, they started having conversations up until a point where they were spotted by another organization that then took them from there. Yeah.
Wow. So which colleague is that?
Yeah, now.
So, like you said, it was started in 2001 in New Crossroads and Guguletu. So they were basically a group of young people that were having conversations about the social issues that were facing in their communities, ranging from crime, rape, xenophobia, and other social ills. So IDASA, which is the Institute for Democracy in South Africa, spotted them and gave them a space for them to continue having these conversations in a more arranged manner. Then in 2003, Africa Unite was launched by the provincial minister of safety and security, and then we only registered and became autonomous in 2004 as an organization. And since then we've grown. We are building human rights communities. We are also involved in a lot of programming in different areas in different communities here in South Africa, especially previously disenfranchised communities. We've got offices in Joburg and in KZN where we carry out our programming. We have a lot of young people who are peer educators that belong to the organization now. We also have interns, and the staff has grown from the time that it started. So it was basically a conversation that led to having this organization that deals in building human rights communities.
Wow. So the interns and the peer educators that you've got, are they trained within the organization?
Yes, they're trained within the organization. So for the peer educators, they are young people that are identified from different townships and communities that are brought and trained. So we believe that human rights is the easiest way that you can approach many of the social issues that people face. Because we know that most of the social ills that people face, for example, if people don't have access to quality education, that's deprivation of a human rights, of a human right. If people don't have access to water, that's deprivation of a human right. So we use human rights as a tool of bridging or finding solutions to the challenges that young people face in their different communities. So we identify these young people from different communities and we train them in human rights, and then we send them out to the different communities, back to the different communities to carry out this human rights work. So we're not a boardroom organization. We detest the idea of being a boardroom organization. We're a grassroots organization that takes pride in having our activities on the ground in the different communities.
Wow, this is a main speaker. Your power. But you mentioned now communities, you mentioned human rights, and you mentioned a little bit about apartheid. So, and one of your main objectives is conflict-free communities. That is one of your objectives. So how do you intend on achieving that?
So as I said, so the idea we have is that young people themselves have the power and they know the situation in their own communities, and therefore they can be able to deal with it. Our idea is that, seeing that the continent itself is largely made out of young people, 60% and above that are young people. So if we were to train young people to understand human rights, to understand respect and dignity, it means that the more we train more of them, the more they go back to their communities, train their peers in the same training that they have already received. It means that they will then have a capacity, a network, a community for that matter, of people that are driving a change, driving a movement of human rights. And by so doing, we would be able to have almost in every community a person who will be dealing with issues of conflict. People will be training others to respect others' human rights and to respect their dignity as well. So that means then that over time would have the capacity to literally not intervene in the conflict, but prevent it from its inception when it begins to emerge. Because these young people understand their communities and they know the issues that they are facing.
So what is the conflict mediation program?
So the conflict mediation program, we call it a community conflict mediation, because the idea there is to capacitate young people. You see, we have trained them as human rights educators. So we then train them also in conflict mediation, because in part of the human rights info sessions, some of the issues that are happening within their communities, they start to come up. Issues of rape, issues of crime, issues of unemployment. And in that process, they are able then to intervene through the community mediation program, which capacitate them to understand the stakeholders in their communities, to understand the people that can change things in their communities, to understand generally how to literally deal with issues of conflict even before they emerge. Because, I mean, issues of unemployment, those are potential areas or potential sources of conflict. And therefore, if they deal with them even before people take them to the streets, or before people start blaming others and saying foreign nationals steal jobs or whatever the case may be. But it allows them to intervene beforehand.
Wow. And so what are the areas that you are targeting at the moment?
So we work in all previously disadvantaged communities. Right now we have a list of about 14 communities that we work in.
Okay, so we're just going to take a short break quickly. When we come back, we're going to continue on that conversation where we discuss which areas we're working for. So, guys that's watching at home, we could be talking about your area. You could not know what is going on. But if you stay tuned, you will be well informed after this. So don't go anywhere. All right, guys, welcome to what if you just tuned in, you're not too late. You're watching Open Studio on Cape Town TV. I'm your host for the show. As always, my name is Danny Kambwa. And yes, we've got Africa Unite in the house. And we are, for those that didn't catch it, we spoke about the background, introduce themselves, the history of the organization. And now, guys, just to continue our conversation, what we spoke about before the break, you mentioned that you are working in various communities. Yes. If you could just take us through that again.
So as I said, we deal with all the communities that are previously disadvantaged. So predominantly you'll find us in the areas of the Cape Flats. You talk about Mitchell's Plain, you talk about Heiderveld, you talk about Kukuletu, Nyanga, Philippi. Anywhere you'll find us. Delft, Mfuleni, Kailicha, Hermanas. We work in an area called Zwalihle there, outside of this place. We started working in George. We're also working in an area in Begwin. We're also outside, of course, the Western Cape. We're working in Durban, almost all the areas, Inanda, Ntuzumo, KwaMashu, and all these other areas we're working, and also in Johannesburg as well.
Wow.
So it's quite a lot of places that we work in.
Yeah. Can you give us a little bit more information about the programs that you are currently running that will help, alleviate this problem of conflict that we have within the communities?
So our first program is simple. We run a program called Human Rights for Social Cohesion, as we dealt with it quite enormously. So that program is our flagship program, which we then use it as a platform to hang other programs onto, which are the skill sharing program, the celebration of diversity program, Africa Unite school clubs, which she will mention. We also have what we call the Africa Youth Exchange program, which others are part of as we speak. So we have more or less, and the other one which is called the Singamakalipa program, which operates in Kokuletu.
Okay, so I hear you are working together with the UNESCO MGIP?
Yes, she will talk more on it, but I just want to mention that UNESCO MGIP is an international organization that is situated in India, but it works all over. So in Africa, we are part of what we call a network of the organization that they've started, and we are driving one of the networks together with another organization. So what we do with them is that we started with a program called Yes Peace, which is about reimagining young people, rethinking how they feature in the entire spectrum of society. The idea we're working with them is on the SDGs particularly, achieving them, the Sustainable Development Goals. We have a program which is called Acts of Kindness, a campaign which seeks to collect stories from all young people, stories of acts of kindness, where young people are either doing stuff or acting on behalf of others, but we collect those stories. The idea is to collect about 2,500 of them so that we can bargain with them with the UN.
Do you come to a let's say, in an environment where these acts of kindness are being shared, or how do you get to know this is what is happening here and this is what's happening there?
I think Bonga will deal with more, but normally young people just bring them to us when we tell them to do so.
Okay, so the issue of xenophobia attacks, how is Africa Unite, what are you doing, to assist, maybe people that's been affected by it, or educate people on xenophobia?
Yeah, I don't know if one of my colleagues wants to take that.
So we, as Africa Unite, we recognize that one of the reasons why xenophobia takes place, or people engage in acts of violence against the other, it's because they don't understand how the other is. So you don't know where someone is coming from. You're not knowledgeable about who they are, about their culture, and so on and so forth. And so people engage in xenophobia because they are misinformed. So as Africa Unite, we take it upon ourselves to run what we call immigration sessions, to teach people about how migrants come into the country, and how refugees come into the country, and what are the reasons that they come into the country for. And also, we also run program. We also used to run a program, still run a program that taught 3 languages, which is French, English, and Swahili. So the Swahili and the French was taught to South African citizens. Then the English is taught to non-South African citizens that may come to South Africa that don't understand, that don't speak English. So the reason why we were teaching French, we teach French and Swahili, is for South African citizens to know how to relate with the other citizens that are coming, with the other migrants and refugees that are coming from other countries. And then the reason why we're teaching English to the other, to the migrants and refugees, is so that they can understand and learn how to communicate with South African citizens. Because one of the reasons why we believe that xenophobia takes place, people don't communicate. You don't understand where the other one is coming from. You don't understand what they're saying. You don't relate. So as a means of integrating the migrants and refugees into the South African communities, they need to understand each other. The first basis of building a relationship is for them to be able to communicate with each other, for them to be able to speak with each other, because then they begin to understand their different cultures. So after that, we also carry out immigration sessions in schools, because we believe that the foundation of one's behavior is when they are still young. So we carry out migration sessions in different schools where we teach young people about migration itself, because when you ask most young people in South Africa about where Somalia is, they don't understand where Somalia is. You ask them about refugees, there are a lot of things that they'll say about refugees and so on and so forth. I remember there's a time when we were carrying out a session about migration in Delft, and then we asked young people to identify where Somalia was in one of our banners. And they couldn't identify where Somalia was on the map. Actually, someone even pointed at South Africa and said Somalia is there. And there was a picture where there was a group of young people that were standing, peer educators, and one of them pointed at a Somalian on the picture and said, there is a Somalian. So they don't know where Somalia is, and they don't understand why people leave their countries and come to South Africa in search for refuge. So we teach them about the basics of who is an asylum seeker. What does it mean to be a refugee in a country? How do you deal with someone who is a refugee? And we also teach migrants and refugees on there's a program that we're starting, I think it will be on the 30th of March. It's called the Refugee Orientation Program. So what we do is that we teach them about the culture of South Africa, how to relate with South Africans when you're in South Africa, so that when they're in South Africa, they're able to relate with each other. Because when you build a relationship, when you become friends, it's difficult for a friend to attack another in violence, because you understand each other. Yeah. You learn to use dialogue and speaking as a means of addressing your challenges.
Wow. So obviously that's a deep and it's a good initiative that you're taking to assist, in educating, because that's a major issue we have in our country. And of course, it does not only affect men. So one of the ladies, quickly just tell us what is your feel on xenophobia before we go into an ad break.
Okay, pretty much what he has said covers it. But for me, coming from a different country, it feels, it gives a positive side to the children from the schools we visit, because they get to know that it's not always the bad things that drive you to South Africa. You can come here for other opportunities like learning, businesses, so on and so forth. So yeah.
Wow, and there you have it, guys. Xenophobia is a big problem, but we're going to take a short break, and then when we come back from the break, we're going to continue with our conversation with Africa Unite. And so I urge you, please do not go anywhere. Stay in your seat, because it's getting exciting after this. All right, guys, welcome back. We are almost at the end of the show, but as always, you are not too late. If you just tune in, you can still get enough information to get you through the rest of the week. So joining me in studio is the members of the Africa Unite organization, and we've had a bit of a briefing earlier on the background of the organization and also of themselves individually, where each one of them is from different walks of life, different countries, and has come together to run this amazing organization. So just to start or to continue from our conversation where we spoke about xenophobia, what the organization is doing. Now, human rights. Okay, can you just speak about the human rights training that you guys have got going on right now?
So what happens is Africa Unite recruits young leaders from various areas, and what they do is we take them to a camp. When we get there, they are given different exercises that give you the first-hand experience before, and then capture your raw reaction, and then after that, that's when the human rights lessons get implemented.
Okay.
We break it down to different types of human rights, the different categories, like the political, socio-economic, civic, everything gets broken down. But what makes it more effective is the exercises that are done there. They are very practical and relatable to our daily lives. So the young people get to experience the other side of, let me say, like, they get to put their shoes in, they get to live even just for a second what it feels like to be a migrant. So, and then before the lessons are given, we just give all those different exercises, and then by when they come back from the camp, everyone has to implement what they learned from the camp into their communities, and then occasionally report back the progress, what they are doing, because everything needs to be sustainable. And if we come back from the camp and then we disappear and don't keep communication, we might not even know what's going on. So we need to know after that what they've been doing and how Africa Unite can still contribute to their different events. Yeah,
certainly. So a gentleman there in the middle, he mentioned, he spoke about the different language barriers. One of the main concern or main cause of conflict is the lack of understanding. Okay, can you tell us why is it important, to learn this different languages, and why is it implemented?
So as Now was saying, he's pretty much touched on it when he was answering the other question. The program is designed just to have migrants be educated and being able to communicate with people that actually live in South Africa. So the migrants will be taught how to speak English, so communication will be easier between them and the citizens of South Africa. And then there's also an exchange, whereas the South Africans are taught how to speak languages like Swahili and French as well, to interact with other people that are coming from outside of inside the African continent and coming into our country. So it makes communication and working together in the communities easier in that sense.
And that makes a lot of sense, because like they always say, somebody is an immigrant somewhere.
Exactly.
You never know where life will lead you, and it's always fair to treat the way you want to be treated as well. So what the Africa Unite Club, what do they do at schools?
So we have a program, the Africa Unite School Club, It's just a pilot program that we launched in 2014 where we take the kids in high school from the grade 8 all the way to grade 11, because in matric there's a lot to do, so we capped it at grade 11. And it's an initiative to get the kids to be molded to be the agents of change within their school and their own community. So they're the ones who want to be the change drivers within their community, in a sense that if they feel like the school and their community is lacking in sanitation, right? So we have it's structured in a cabinet which mimics just exactly as a presidential cabinet that we have. Yeah. And we have different ministers of health, minister of education, minister of social development. So then that person who realizes, okay, there's a gap missing here, maybe our school toilets are not working out properly, right? And the school itself is not doing anything about it. So we want the kids to be the ones who are actually initiating the change. So as the minister of health, what are you going to do about it? So they go and they lobby with the community leaders, and they lobby with our government, and they lobby with the teachers themselves in order to change the circumstances that they have around them. And you know, kids spend so much time in school, yet we focus on mostly just academics, and we forget that there's actually more to it than just that. We want the environment to be sustainable as well, and we want the leaders to be molded at a very young age, so when they get to tertiary level and start thinking as an adult, they already know that, okay, this is what I'm supposed to get as a citizen, and whatever else they don't get is an infringement on their rights. Yeah. So it's a program just to mold the kids at a very early age to be an agent of change themselves.
Yeah.
And I think the magic of the program is the fact that, because there are so many programs in schools, so many programs, but the problem is that with these programs, when they leave the school environment, the kids are then left idle. They have nothing else to do. What we do is we don't go to the kids and tell them what to do. We go to the kids, capacitate them as leaders, and then tell them that this is your community, this is your school. They have a slogan. The slogan says, "My school is my community," which seeks to say that your responsibility is not only to say this is a school and that's it, but it goes outside the community. And the idea there is to groom them to become stakeholders in the community, such that if a councillor is sitting there and wants to plan a meeting, they should think in their heads that, okay, there are young people who are also doing something of this nature, which are the school club people. So what then that program does, it allows them to be people that you want to associate with, and that they are young people who are literally seeking change and doing the change that they want to see.
Yeah, and that's important, you know, like you mentioned, you're giving them the insight, you're giving them the program, and then afterwards you are following up, you know, because you have to have the consistency. Yeah, you have to have the consistency. So each organization is measured by or maybe mostly measured by the number of achievement that they have achieved, and you guys have got this initiative going on where you are really putting in a lot of effort into the kids. So have you experienced any achievements in the last few?
So if I can point out, when you talk about the achievements, for instance, we have a relationship, fully fledged relationship with UNESCO MGIP, which is an international organization, from an organization that works from the ground, started in New Crossroads. To us, that is an achievement. Yeah. Beyond that, the partnership we have and working with them is that in the community that we work with, we have literally clear achievements that we've seen. In KZN, for instance, there was a place where there was no library at all. Yeah. And young people, the page caterers, they saw this issue, they spoke to the community up until a point where the satellite library was built by the community. Not so far away here in Nyanga, we all know that Nyanga has been the meta capital of the country for some time. Some claim that it's a meta capital of the continent. So we worked together with the communities there, the deputy minister at the time and everyone else, and one of the things that we found was that the place did not have a police station at that point in time. And therefore, they started a process where they wanted to build a satellite police station, and they eventually did. And that is part of the things that we have done. In terms of people, we have seen places where when there's an Africa Tech starts, then there's nothing done with them. And when we asked, some of them said, well, because there are certain individuals within this community who are saying, we can't do that to these people because they are literally part of us, and so they come from us, from this program as well.
So unfortunately, we're going to have to end the show right there, guys. This has been an amazing journey. Okay, it was quite informative. I'm sure those that's watching at home could get enough insight out of this, you know, to go out there and make an impact within the communities. Okay, so I thank you so much for coming through, guys. Thank you so much for those that's watching at home. Today we're signing out, but it does not end here. Please go and follow up Africa United, and see you till next time. Bye bye.